You know, we talk a lot about winning in sports. It's a word that gets thrown around so casually that it almost loses its meaning.
Oh, absolutely. It's completely diluted.
We call a coach a winner if they have, what, 2 good seasons in a row? Or if he managed to scrape together a bowl victory?
Right, or they hit a .600 winning percentage and we're ready to build them a statue.
We lower the bar because, frankly, winning is hard. Sustaining it is nearly impossible.
It is the hardest thing in sports. Entropy comes for everyone eventually. You see it with dynasties all the time. They rise, they peak, and then the inevitable decline sets in. Gravity takes over.
Exactly. But today, we are looking at a figure who seems to have defied gravity. We are talking about a man who didn't just win. He dominated so thoroughly and for so long that his record looks like a statistical anomaly.
It looks like a typo, is what it looks like.
It really does. We're talking about John Merritt, Big John.
Big John is the only name that fits. The footprint he left on college football is massive, even if the mainstream history books sometimes unjustly gloss over it.
Well, let's just drop the number right at the top, because I think if we bury this, people won't understand the scale of what we're discussing.
Let's do it.
During his tenure at Tennessee State, John Merritt had a career winning percentage of .828.
.828.
Let's sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
That is winning more than 4 out of every 5 games.
It's winning 8 out of every 10, basically.
Every single year for 2 decades. In modern football, if a coach wins 60% of their games, they get a statue. If they win 70%, they are a legend. Merritt was operating in the 80s.
It is rare air. You are talking about a percentage that rivals the absolute greatest to ever do it at any level. Knute Rockne, Frank Leahy. Those are the kinds of names you have to invoke.
Right.
But what makes Merritt's .828 so compelling to me isn't just the math, it's the context. He wasn't inheriting a fully oiled machine at Alabama or Notre Dame. He was doing it during one of the most tumultuous eras in American history.
That is the key, isn't it? He wasn't just an X's and O's guy. He was a figurehead, a pillar. When you look at his total career record, 235 wins, 70 losses, 12 ties, that represents a level of consistency that is almost humanly impossible.
It is.
He turned programs into powerhouses, but he also built a legacy that literally reshapes the cities he lived in.
Quite literally. We are talking about a man who has bridges and boulevards named after him. You don't get municipal infrastructure named after you just because you called a good play on 3rd and long.
Not usually, no.
You get it because you meant something to the soul of the community.
So that is our mission today. We are going to unpack the life of one of college football's greatest winners. We're going to look at how he did it, obviously. But I also want to look at the who. Who was Big John?
The man behind the numbers.
Yes. We need to talk about the NFL legends he molded, and I mean absolute titans of the game. And we have to discuss a specific moment in 1973, a what-if moment that could have changed the entire trajectory of college football history.
That 1973 moment is the pivot point of his entire biography. It tells you everything you need to know about his character.
But before we get to the dynasty and the difficult decisions, we have to go back to the start. To understand the coach, I think we have to understand the player.
Absolutely. You cannot separate the two. It all starts there.
Okay, so John Ayers Merritt, born January 26, 1926, Falmouth, Kentucky.
Now think about that time and place. 1926 in Kentucky. He is growing up in the Depression, coming of age during World War II.
It's a different world.
A completely different world. That breeds a certain type of toughness, a certain type of pragmatism. You don't have the luxury of being frivolous. Life is about survival and hard work.
And he stays in state for his education. He goes to Kentucky State University, graduates in 1950.
Right, an alumnus.
But his playing days were from 1947 to 1949. And this, to me, is where the first breadcrumb of his coaching genius lies. He wasn't the star quarterback.
No. And he wasn't the flash-in-the-pan running back either. Not the guy getting his name in the headlines every week.
He was a guard.
An interior lineman.
Now, I have a theory about this, and I want to see if you agree. I feel like some of the best coaches in history come from positions where they had to understand the entire game, not just their own route or their own throwing lane.
Yeah.
But a guard, that feels specific.
I think you are onto something, but I would take it a step further. Think about what a guard does.
You're in a phone booth.
You are in a phone booth fight on every single snap. It is physical, brutal, unglamorous work. It's all leverage and pain.
And no one ever chants your name.
Never. But it is also highly technical. As a guard, you have to know leverage. You have to know angles. You have to know how to use your hands, your feet, your hips in perfect concert. And maybe most importantly, you have to be unselfish.
Completely.
Your entire job is to clear a path for someone else to get the glory. Your success is measured by someone else's touchdown.
That is a great point. You are literally the shield, the unsung hero of every single successful play.
Exactly. So if you are a coach who played guard, you understand the foundational elements of the game. You understand that the game isn't won by the guy spiking the ball in the end zone. It is won by the guy who made the block 3 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
That mindset, that in-the-trenches mentality, permeates Merritt's entire career. He built his teams from the inside out. He always started with the line of scrimmage.
And it suggests a level of toughness that you can't fake. If you're standing in front of a team of young men and you are telling them to get tough, to get their nose dirty,
it helps if you've been there.
It helps if you have the scars to prove you've done it yourself.
Credibility is currency in coaching. And Big John had that currency in spades. But here's the contradiction, or maybe the compliment, to that brute force background. He wasn't just a football guy.
Right. This surprised me. He graduates in 1950 and almost immediately pivots to higher education. He earns a master's degree from the University of Kentucky in 1952.
That is a very distinct choice. It's not the path of least resistance.
Not at all. I mean, plenty of guys finish playing and just go get a job. Or they jump right into coaching as a graduate assistant, a grunt. But to go get a master's degree in the early 50s.
It signals ambition, but it also signals intellect. It shows he saw a bigger picture.
It signals that he viewed coaching as a profession, as a discipline that required study. He wasn't just going to rely on his gut or yell louder than the next guy.
No, he was bringing an academic rigor to his approach. He was a student of the game, yes, but he was also just a student, period.
Yeah.
He valued education, not just for his players, but for himself.
It sets the stage for the nickname Big John to mean something more than just physical size. It was a bigness of personality, sure, but also a bigness of mind. That's it. He was an intellectual approach to a violent game.
And that combination, the guard's toughness and the scholar's mind, is a terrifying combination for an opponent. You can't outthink him, and you can't out-tough him.
So he has the degree, he has the playing experience. Now he needs a team. And he lands his first head coaching gig at Jackson State. Well, back then it was Jackson College.
Right. This is the early 1950s, his first shot at running the whole show.
He takes over around 1952 or 53, and his tenure there runs until 1962. Now, looking at the back end of his career, we see all these undefeated seasons and championships, so it is easy to assume he just walked into Jackson State and started winning immediately.
But that is not what happened, and I think this is crucial for the listeners to understand. Merritt wasn't a magician. He was a builder, and building takes time.
I'm looking at the record here. 1952, his first year, 3 wins, 5 losses, 1 tie.
Not great. A losing season right out of the gate.
1953, slightly better at 5-4. A winning record, but just barely.
Okay, some progress, moving in the right direction.
But then, 1954. This is the nadir. This is the moment where most careers would end.
Oh, this is the test.
1 win, 7 losses.
1 or 1 tie.
A 1-win season.
If that happens today, if a coach is in his 3rd year and he puts up a 1-7 record, he is cleaning out his office the next morning. The moving trucks are already there. Almost certainly. The patience for building has evaporated in modern sports. But think about what that season must have felt like. You are a young coach. You have this master's degree. You have these big ideas. And you are getting beaten every single week.
Humiliating.
It has to be. That tests your resolve. It tests your philosophy. Do you panic? Do you change everything? Do you start pointing fingers?
That is the question. Did he change?
He didn't. From everything we can gather, he doubled down on his culture. He weeded out the players who weren't buying in. He established the standard. He made it clear that mediocrity wasn't an option, even when the scoreboard said they were worse than mediocre.
He trusted the process, as they say now.
He did. And usually right after the darkest moment is when the breakthrough happens, if you survive it.
And the breakthrough was dramatic. 2 years later, 1956, they go 6-2-2.
That is the pivot. That's the moment the ship turns around. From 1 win to 6 wins in 2 years.
And from there, the rocket ship takes off. The foundation is set. By 1961, they are 9-2.
He took a program that was literally at the bottom, winning 1 game, and within a few years, turned them into a 9-win juggernaut. That is the definition of coaching.
Right.
Anybody can drive a Ferrari across the finish line. Merritt took a beat-up sedan, rebuilt the engine piece by piece, and won the race.
And they didn't just win games, they won titles. SWAC champions in 1961 and 1962.
And the SWAC, we need to contextualize this. The Southwestern Athletic Conference, this is historic territory. We're talking about Grambling under Eddie Robinson, Southern, Jackson State, Alcorn State.
It's a murderer's row.
Winning the SWAC in the early 60s is like winning the SEC today.
Yeah.
It was a gauntlet of legendary coaches and incredible talent.
And winning that conference led them to the Orange Blossom Classic.
The biggest stage there was, the granddaddy of them all for HBCUs.
For listeners who might not know, explain the significance of the Orange Blossom Classic in that era.
You have to remember, this is before full integration of the NCAA bowl system. For decades, Black college teams were excluded from the major bowls, like the Rose Bowl or Sugar Bowl, so they created their own championship.
Their own pinnacle.
Exactly. The Orange Blossom Classic, usually played in Miami, was effectively the Super Bowl of Black college football. It was the event, the national media covered it, it was where the champion was crowned. If you were playing in the Orange Blossom, you were the elite of the elite.
And Merritt took Jackson State there back-to-back.
Which is incredible consistency. It's one thing to have a great season. It's another to do it 2 years in a row and establish yourself as the dominant force.
1961, they go and they lose.
A taste of the big time, but they fall short.
But 1962, they go back and they win. The team goes 10-1.
Think about that arc. 1954, 1-7. Losing nearly every game, the program is an afterthought. 8 years later, 1962, 10-1 and Orange Blossom champions. They are the best in the nation. That decade at Jackson State was his proof of concept. He proved that his system worked. He proved that he could take nothing and turn it into everything.
His final record there, 63-37-5. He left the program in a completely different universe than where he found it.
And that's when other people start to notice. When you build a champion like that, the phone starts ringing.
So by 1963, he has nothing left to prove at Jackson State. He is a champion. And Tennessee A&I, which eventually becomes Tennessee State University, comes calling.
And this is where the story shifts from a great coach to a legend.
He moves to Nashville in 1963. And unlike Jackson State, where he had to dig them out of a hole, at Tennessee State, he hit the ground running.
Immediate impact. There was no learning curve this time.
1963, his first year.
Yeah.
6-3. 1964, 8-2.
He established the culture much faster this time, probably because he was bringing that confidence, that championship pedigree with him. He knew exactly what the blueprint was now.
And then the explosion. 1965 and 1966.
The golden years. This is where the dynasty is truly born.
1965. 901, 1966, 10-0.
Undefeated. Back-to-back. Just utter dominance.
This is where that .828 percentage really starts to bake in. He wasn't just winning, he was unbeatable. Yeah. You just did not beat a John Merritt team in the mid-60s.
And it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't one great recruiting class. When you look at his entire tenure at Tennessee State, he had 4 undefeated seasons.
4. That's absurd.
Most coaches pray for 1 undefeated season in a 30-year career. Merritt had 4. And these weren't cupcake schedules. He was playing against the best of the best.
And the championships kept stacking up. I have the list here. It's just relentless.
Read it out. It's worth hearing.
Black college national championships in 65, 66, 70, 71, 73, 79, 82.
It's relentless. That spans 3 different decades.
It does.
The game changed so much between 1965 and 1982. The rules changed. The style of play changed. The recruiting landscape changed dramatically with integration.
That's a great point. A coach who wins in the 60s often struggles in the 80s because they become a dinosaur. They refuse to adapt. They're still trying to run the wishbone when everyone else is throwing the ball.
Right, the game passes them by. But Merritt was winning titles 20 years apart. That shows he was a constant innovator.
But it also speaks to his adaptability, and you mentioned it before, his eye for talent. He wasn't just winning with scheme, he was winning with players.
Oh, he was winning with absolute dogs. And this is where we have to talk about the pipeline.
The talent factory.
Tennessee State under Merritt became an absolute conveyor belt to the NFL. He was identifying and developing talent at a level that rivaled any school in the country.
We are not talking about fringe roster guys here. We are not talking about guys who made a practice squad for a year.
No. We are talking about household names, legends.
Let's run down the list because it's incredible. Ed Too Tall Jones.
Maybe the most famous defensive end of his era. A cultural icon. The first overall pick in the 1974 NFL draft.
The first pick from Tennessee State.
Think about that. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, had the #1 pick in the entire draft, and they went to Nashville, Tennessee to John Merritt's program to find their cornerstone player. That tells you everything about the respect he commanded.
Okay, next name, Joe Gilliam. Jefferson Street Joe.
A trailblazing quarterback,
Yeah.
one of the first black quarterbacks to start in the modern NFL for the Steelers. He had an absolute cannon for an arm.
Claude Humphrey.
Hall of Famer, 6-time Pro Bowler, Defensive Rookie of the Year, an absolute terror off the edge for the Falcons.
Mike Hegman, a linebacker for the Cowboys, won a Super Bowl.
And the big one, Richard Dent.
Richard Dent, the MVP of Super Bowl XX, a Chicago Bears icon, Hall of Famer.
One of the greatest pass rushers of all time. He was the engine of that legendary '85 Bears defense.
Now, I want to go back to your theory about Merritt playing guard.
Sure.
Look at those names again. Two tall Jones. Claude Humphrey, Richard Dent, Mike Hegman. What do they have in common?
They're all defensive front seven players. They are the guys whose job it is to beat the offensive line. They live on the other side of the line of scrimmage from where Merritt lived.
Exactly. Is it a coincidence that a former guard, a guy who spent his entire career battling defensive linemen, became the world's greatest recruiter and developer of defensive ends and linebackers?
I don't think it is a coincidence at all. I think it is genius. Merritt knew exactly what gave him nightmares as a player. He knew what moves worked against a guard. He knew what kind of leverage, what kind of hand placement made an offensive lineman uncomfortable.
We knew all their secrets.
All of them. So when he was coaching these young defensive giants, these incredible athletes like Too Tall or Richard Dent, he wasn't just teaching them generic defense. He was giving them the cheat codes to beat the offense.
He was reverse engineering his own position.
Precisely. He could look at Ed Too Tall Jones and say, look, you're 6'9". If you get your hands here and you use a long arm technique like this, the guard physically cannot stop you. I know, because I was that guard, and that's what beat me.
He's teaching them from the enemy's perspective.
And the result was a defensive legacy that stands up against any program in the country, Alabama, USC, whoever. In the 70s and 80s, Tennessee State was D-line U.
And that success, that ability to produce NFL stars, raised Merritt's profile significantly. By the early 70s, he wasn't just a great HBCU coach. He was just a great coach, period. Everyone knew it.
The NFL scouts knew it. The other college coaches knew it. His name was being whispered in circles that just a decade earlier would have been completely closed off.
Which brings us to 1973, the moment of truth.
The fork in the road.
Merritt is coming off back-to-back-to-back dominant seasons. He's won national championships in 70 and 71. He's about to win another in 73. His stock is at an all-time high.
He's arguably one of the top 5 coaches in all of college football at that moment, regardless of division.
And he gets a phone call from Wichita State. Now, we need to set the scene. 1973. This is still the very early days of integration in coaching. You had black assistant coaches, sure, but the head coaching ranks at the major college level, what we would call the FBS or Division IA today, were still exclusively white at the top.
Completely. A total glass ceiling.
Wichita State offers John Merritt their head coaching job, a major Division IA program.
If he takes that job.
He becomes the first black head coach of a major college football team in history.
It's a Jackie Robinson moment waiting to happen.
It is historic. It is groundbreaking.
Hey, Brian.
And frankly, it is lucrative. The resources, the pay, the national exposure on television every week, everything would have leveled up.
The contract was likely sitting right there. The pen was probably in his hand. The history books were open, waiting for him to write his name in a new chapter.
A chapter that would have changed everything for the coaches who came after him. He would have been the pioneer.
And he didn't sign.
He turned it down.
He said no.
He stayed at Tennessee State. Why? I mean, really, why? We see coaches jump ship today for a slightly nicer locker room or a few extra dollars. He had the chance to make history and get paid.
It is the question that defines him. And the answer is just as defining. The source quotes him directly on this. He said he chose to remain out of loyalty to his players and assistants.
Loyalty.
It sounds almost quaint today, doesn't it? In the era of the transfer portal and coaches leaving in the middle of the night. But think about what that means.
It means everything.
He looked at the young men he had recruited to Tennessee State guys he sat in living rooms with and promised their mothers he would take care of. He looked at his assistant coaches, guys who had been grinding with him since the Jackson State days, who depended on him for their livelihood.
And he felt he couldn't leave them.
He realized that if he left for his own personal glory, he might be leaving them behind. He couldn't guarantee that Wichita State would hire his whole staff. He couldn't guarantee that the players he recruited would be treated the same way by a new coach. He chose his community over his own personal glory.
He did.
And I think there's a deeper layer, too. I think he knew that what he had at Tennessee State was special. He had autonomy, he had respect, he was the king of his castle.
Right.
He was building young black men into leaders in an environment that was designed for them, that celebrated them. Going to Wichita State, that would have been a battle. He would have been fighting not just opponents on the field, but likely racism and skepticism off the field every single day.
That's a fair assessment. He was king in Nashville. In Wichita, he would have been an experiment.
Exactly. And by staying, he made a powerful statement. He essentially said, I don't need a PWI, a predominantly white institution, to validate me. My championships are real. My players are real. I am a champion right here.
And honestly, that decision probably cemented his legend in Nashville more than any win ever could.
Oh, absolutely. It proved he was Big John, the man, not just the coach. He was loyal to the soil. The players would run through a brick wall for a coach who turned down history for them.
And he proved he made the right call by just keeping on winning.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he stayed and got complacent. He didn't rest on his laurels.
No, machine kept humming. If anything, it got stronger.
We look at the late career stats. 1979, 8-3 black college national champs again. But 1982 stands out to me.
1982 is a crucial year for context.
They go 10-1-1, another national championship. But this was also the era where the NCAA started the Division IAA playoffs. The structure of the sport was changing.
Right. This is the beginning of the modern era. It wasn't just about bowl games and poll votes anymore. There was a formal playoff bracket to determine a national champion.
And Merritt led Tennessee State to their first ever NCAA Division IAA playoff victory that year. They made it all the way to the semifinals.
That is significant because it answers the critics who might have said, oh, he could only win in the old system. No, he stepped into the modern playoff era and won immediately. He proved his brand of football worked no matter what the format was.
So here he is. It's the early 80s. He's nearly 60 years old. He's conquered the old era. He is conquering the new era. He is still on top of the mountain.
He's an institution and an icon.
And then it just ends.
So abruptly.
The timeline is jarring. He coaches the 1983 season. They go 8-1, still winning, another great year.
Still dominant, still a championship caliber team.
And then a couple weeks after the season ends, December 15th, 1983, he dies.
Heart disease. Vanderbilt University Hospital.
He was 57 years old.
57, that is shockingly young, especially for a football coach who seems so larger than life.
We see guys coaching into their 70s now.
Yeah.
Saban, Snyder, Joe Paterno. 57 is usually when a coach is entering their absolute prime wisdom years. They've seen it all.
He was cut down right at the peak of his powers. He had just navigated the transition to Division IAA. He had another powerhouse team. He was still recruiting future NFL legends. And then he was gone.
It really is a tragedy. But despite leaving us so early, the mark he left is permanent. We alluded to it earlier, the infrastructure.
It is hard to miss him if you are in Nashville. You literally drive on his legacy.
John Merritt Boulevard.
A major artery in the city, right there by the university. It's a daily reminder of his impact.
You're back in his hometown of Falmouth, Kentucky. The John Ayers Merritt Memorial Bridge.
I love the symbolism of the bridge. He bridged the gap for so many players, from a life of limited opportunity to a future in the NFL or as community leaders. He bridged the gap between the segregated era and the modern era.
And then there is the living tribute, the game itself.
The John Merritt Classic.
Tennessee State opens every home season with this game at Nissan Stadium, the home of the Tennessee Titans. It is a massive event.
It's a celebration. It's not just a football game. It's a reunion, a festival. It ensures that every single player who puts on a Tennessee State uniform knows whose shoulders they are standing on. You can't play your first game without saying his name.
And eventually, the broader football world caught up to what everyone in Nashville and in the HBCU community already knew.
The Hall of Fame.
Inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1994.
Long overdue, but well-deserved. A no-brainer.
And in 1995, he received the Amos Alonzo Stagg Award. Now, can you give us some context on that? Because I know that it's a big deal.
The Stagg Award is one of the highest honors in coaching. It recognizes outstanding service in the advancement of the best interests of football. It's not just about wins and losses.
It's about your contribution to the game.
Exactly. And if you look at the list of recipients, it is the Mount Rushmore of football. Bear Bryant, Woody Hayes, Boshin Beffler, Joe Paterno.
And John Merritt.
And John Merritt. He is right there next to them where he belongs. His name is on that list forever.
When you put his resume up against those guys, 235 wins, 70 losses, 12 ties.
A .764 career winning percentage over 30 years.
5-2 in bowls, 8 black college national championships, 5 conference titles.
It stands toe-to-toe with any of them. In fact, his winning percentage is higher than most of them. Higher than Bear Bryant's. Higher than Woody Hayes's.
So we have unpacked the stats. We have unpacked the loyalty. We have unpacked the legacy. When you step back and look at the whole picture of Big John Merritt, what is the takeaway for you?
I think the takeaway is that excellence is transferable. He had excellence as a player in the trenches, doing the hard, unnoticed work. He transferred that to his studies and got his master's. He transferred that to a losing program at Jackson State and built a champion. He transferred that to a dynasty at Tennessee State.
And he transferred to his players.
And he transferred that excellence into the hundreds of young men who went on to be professionals and leaders. He was a conductor of excellence.
I love that. He didn't just hoard the success, he distributed it.
Exactly. His legacy isn't just the trophies, it's the men he built. It's Richard Dent holding up the Super Bowl MVP trophy. It's Ed Jones being the first pick in the draft. It's the bridge and the boulevard. It's all of it.
And I can't help but go back to that final what if.
The thought experiment. It's impossible not to.
He died at 57. He was winning 80% of his games. If he lives to be 70, another 13 seasons.
Yeah.
What does his career record look like?
Well, at his average of about 8 or 9 wins a year, you're looking at another 100 victories. He gets to 335 wins, maybe more.
That puts him in the top 5 all time.
Almost certainly. He was on pace. He'd be right there with Eddie Robinson and Bear Bryant.
So that's one what if. The other is, what if he had taken that Wichita State job in '73?
Oh, that's the big one.
How different would the landscape of college football history look today? If he goes there and succeeds, and with his track record, why wouldn't he? Does that open the door for dozens of other black coaches a decade earlier than it happened?
I think it has to. He would have broken the glass ceiling. He would have proven that an HBCU coach could win at the highest level of a PWI. The ripple effect would have been enormous. We might have seen a completely different, more integrated coaching landscape by the mid-'80s.
But he didn't. He chose loyalty.
He did. So instead of becoming the first, he became the greatest at what he was already building. It's one of the great lost chapters of sports history.
It is. But the chapters he did write, they are pretty incredible.
They certainly are. Unforgettable.
Big John Merritt, a guard, a scholar, a legend. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
We will see you next time. Keep digging.